a lot of people have been asleep. They've been in their fucking comfortable bubbles, and then 2020 happens, and it's been one thing after another. It seems like we can't catch a break this year. Man, nobody could have predicted this shit.
I got love for the game. Bring it back to the golden age when the fresh beats knocked down. Whatever happened to real hip hop? Love for the game.
Bro, this podcast is gaining momentum quick, huh?
With the Clips channel out.
Yes, sir. That is a great point. So for you guys watching this video right now, we now have a Raw and Relentless Clips channel. For some of you guys who don't necessarily have the time to invest 2 hours into an episode right away, we'll also have that Clips channel that's going to give you short clips and highlights from each episode. So the link to that is actually on this channel. We have it as one of our featured channels, so you guys can go check it out. But yeah, so go and subscribe to the Clips channel. Definitely subscribe to this podcast if you aren't already. I know a lot of the people, and this is just across YouTube, it's not just this channel, but usually people who watch the videos, usually it's about like 75 to 80% of those people aren't even subscribed. So if you're one of those people and you're not yet subscribed to this podcast, hit that subscribe button. Or if you're listening on audio with Spotify, Apple, anywhere where you listen to podcasts, we are now also there. Make sure you hit that follow and leave us a review because it helps the podcast grow, get more exposure. So if you like what you hear, leave us a review. If you even if you don't like what you hear, leave us a fucking review. Shit.
That's true. Feedback is feedback.
Feedback only helps everybody.
Especially since we're in it for the long run, man.
Yeah. So, Chris, I know we've had a lot of things going on this week. I heard something interesting the other day. I heard that the Mayan calendar actually ends next week or this coming week, like in a few days.
Oh, so it wasn't 2012?
That's what everybody's saying, but I've heard from a couple of people that they think it was a few years off, so like 2020. And then I heard like I like read a couple of articles and stuff. It's actually supposed to end, like the whole calendar just cuts out in like a week. But they were also saying this in 2012. So how do you fucking know?
That's what I'm saying. Like next week they're gonna come out. Oh no! It actually comes out 2023. That's when it ends.
Yeah. Well, I brought this up with Kate the other day at lunch, and she started thinking, well, it sounds like we're in the middle of the apocalypse. And this is interesting for Kate to say because Kate's not really religious. She's never really read the Bible or anything. And she brought up the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes.
So yeah, what do you know about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
I don't know much, but I know like one of them's like war, death, and then the other two I can't name off the top of my head.
So when Kate brought it up, we looked it up because it seems like we've got 3 of the 4 here right now. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, think about this. One of them is famine, so shortage of food. Another one is look it up, Google it. Another one is like battle and war. So think about like the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the whole riots and protests going on in society right now. The other one is Jesus Christ riding in, and then what's the fourth one?
The fourth one is. Oh man, give me one sec. But what did you say the other 3 were?
So yeah, just type in the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and I believe the other one is like a plague of some sort. And so if you think about the pandemic,
like disease.
Yeah, well, look it up, bro. So yeah, man, that was crazy because I was like, oh shit, Mayan calendar is supposed to come to an end, and oh, by the way, check out Chris's glasses. He's got them hidden.
My dog, he designed them.
Yeah,
they're all taped up, so that's why I'm just I'm struggling trying to read. But so it is war, pestilence, famine, and death.
So death, coronavirus, bro.
Yeah, and especially with how things are going out here in Arizona.
Yeah, and I think I heard Joe Rogan talking about on his podcast the other day that there's actually a sandstorm in Africa that's so big. It's actually coming over the seas and it's going to hit the U.S.
Oh shit! I know there was fires here in the U.S. as well, like here in Arizona as well, like a really big fire.
Yeah, well, me and Kate,
a
couple episodes ago, I mentioned Salt River tubing. If you ever come to Arizona, you got to go Salt River tubing because it's amazing, right? And while we were there, towards the end of the day, we saw all this smoke coming up like a few miles away. And Kate told me yesterday that that's part of the fires that are here, and it's still been running for like a week. It's been over a week since we were at the lake, and they're actually starting to shut down parts of that river.
Oh,
because
snap.
of it.
It's becoming too dangerous.
Yeah, like the fire's getting close. It's only growing, and it's pretty damn big.
Yeah, I know they're working at it like fucking day and night. But that's crazy to think about the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
But I feel like definitely there's a big shift occurring.
What do you mean?
Like just in general in society as a whole. It's funny that it lands on like the presidential, election year. I got my own opinions on that, but
What are they?
I don't know. I definitely feel like a lot what's going on, like coronavirus and stuff, it is definitely real, but definitely the politicians are kind of using this to not to narrate like the agendas that they want to push,
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's like well known that news, and obviously, well, maybe it's not well known. Maybe some people here are going to be like, what? But like news, they have that phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. So naturally, they were the original clickbaiters before YouTube. Anything that would get views, they got to put. And they found that negative angles, fear-based angles tends to get more clicks, more views. And so if it bleeds, it leads. If it's bad, let's lead with that as our top story of the day. Which is ironic because we're talking about the fucking apocalypse to open the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's interesting. I forgot how we got into the news. What were you saying?
Oh, how they're just using what's going on.
It's easier to influence people when they are in an emotionally fear-based state. When you can get someone looking for solutions, looking for a different way, a way out, something to escape from, aka all the things that the news is talking about, the fear-based stuff, the if it bleeds, it leads stuff, and like you said, to push their own agendas. So when you can get someone in that state of mind, it's easier to influence them to take the actions that you want. So like you said, it really is interesting that this is happening on a election year of 2020.
Yeah, because like you even I just go on like the YouTube and all, like I just like to scroll through the what news is they're showing, and it boils down to like either a cop doing something bad again, Donald Trump, or the coronavirus. And it's like it seems like, I don't know, the impression I get is like a lot of it boils down to like blaming Donald Trump,
Well, that's like human nature, and I think most people don't realize this, but people love to have a scapegoat. They love to have something or someone to blame. That way they can take the blame off themselves. And so when people aren't satisfied with their own life, rather than looking within, they look outward and they try to go, oh, it's your fault. Oh, it's your fault. And what's crazy, if you look at kind of the history of like human knowledge and stuff, when I forget what it was, but it was a significant technological advancement. I think it had to do with when we figured out like what causes people to get sick and things like that. Before we had any of that science that was well known, that people can hear about it and you can write about it and spread the word and spread the news and spread the knowledge. Before a lot of this, what happened? People were getting burned at the stake. You were getting called a witch. It's because if there was a famine in your city, if something went wrong, if a certain amount of people were getting sick, people instantly go, what's causing this? What's causing this? And so back in the Mayan days, they would go, we need to sacrifice children to the fucking sun god, right? And then in modern kind of history, it was witch. You get burned at the stake. And then they found out, oh no, wait, famine actually gets caused because of these weather conditions and this lack of nutrition for the plant. And people get sick because of pathogens and microbes within their body and viruses. All of a sudden, you don't see people getting burned at the stake anymore.
That's true. So you're saying like it kind of transitioned out from like that very violent, burn at the stake to more like just blaming.
Well, the point I'm trying to make here is that people always want to look for something to scapegoat the things that they're not happy with. And so blaming Trump, naturally, he's an easy person to blame because for the first time in history, probably not the first time in all of history, but for the first time in our lives, there's a controversial figure running the US. And it's such a controversial figure that people will literally just take a viewpoint that is the opposite of his because it's his viewpoint. You know what I'm saying? Because he's so polarizing. He's a reality TV star and he plays it up. He knows how to get views. He knows how to get attention. You can argue that might be why he has risen to power the way he has, because he knows how to market himself. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a dangerous society where just because I don't like you as a person, I'm going to intentionally think the opposite of you and think that anything that you think is not good, right? Just because I don't like you, right? And I think that's where politics gets dangerous. But the moral of the story is I can see why people are wanting to blame Trump and wanting to blame any number of things, you know? But at the end of the day, like, maybe that's just my own entrepreneurial brain, my own, I'm a little bit of a self-starter, if you can't tell. So for me, I only like to worry about things that I can control. And so for me, one of those things that really helped me to actually start living and start getting results in my life with whether it's business, dating, whatever, is starting to take full responsibility as much as I possibly could, rather than saying, it's your fault. Why do you do this to me? Why do you do this to me? I go, all right, what can I do to change this result? You know?
Yeah, and that's honestly been like a pretty prevalent topic for me personally, because like I've been feeling like my anxiety kind of rising up again.
Why?
And because I feel like I've been focusing so much on the news, and then a big part of it also has been like I just felt like I had no control of where my life was going. But recently, I don't know, I just got kind of like the juice back up to kind of go back out and really chase after the things, just chase after goals, recreating what is it that I want, you know?
Yeah. I feel like, you know, an extension of this, part of the slippery slope is like if people want to start pointing fingers and start scapegoating other things that are outside of them. And I'm not saying that it's your fault that the coronavirus is going around. I'm not saying that, but I am saying you should worry about what you can control, because if you spend so much time worrying about what you can't control and you're spending so much time consuming news, you get the anxiety like that. But I think part of the danger here is literally think about what is in it by nature. Like, what does it mean to be like scapegoating and pointing the finger? You're trying to take more of a passive role here. You're trying to say what can I blame rather than what can I do? You know what I'm saying? And it's more of a passive process. Well, let's take this to the extension. And if 80% or most of the people out there are doing the same thing, here's the danger of that. Today, because of everything going on, society is trying to figure out, how do we pay people? So, because especially the ones that are out of work. Me and Kate went to Scottsdale yesterday. Half the restaurants, the ones that got looted, Sephora got looted, Apple Store, a lot of these stores that got looted weeks ago are still not in business today because everything's just boxed off. You know, Urban Outfitters wasn't even open because people broke the front door. You know, same with Sephora inside the mall. And so a lot of these businesses, even if they weren't looted, are still being affected by new rules and regulations, face masks, social distancing, only a certain amount of people allowed inside at once, you name it. And so the society, obviously, and you know this, the government said, hey, we're going to start doing stimulus checks, right? And we're also going to change things like unemployment. Another example is like Kate, my girlfriend, has a normal job. She has a 401k. She has a retirement fund. And her job allowed her, because of what's going on, they were allowed to pull out whatever money they wanted from their 401k or the retirement fund. And so Kate ended up pulling it all out, because I'm like, Kate, you have this opportunity. Most people don't get it. Just take it all, right? Because I'd rather have money now rather than money 60 years from now when you're not too old to use it. Yeah. So anyways, with that, her uncle and a couple people in her family are out of work, and they're collecting unemployment checks, and they're making more money from unemployment than they were at their job. And now what's could happen from that, people get comfortable doing nothing because they can and get by. But let's think about the long-term societal effects on this. What goes around comes around. It seems easy now, but what happens when things get back to normal? Society's kicking again. Coronavirus isn't something that people are worried about. Stores are opening up. The government's going to try to get theirs back. You know what I'm saying? They're giving now, but they're going to try to get it back.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I've been seeing. Like, a lot of people, they, like my girlfriend, she worked part-time as a server, and she was basically getting paid full-time for unemployment. So it's like, like in the current situation, it's like, why not get unemployment, right? Do anything you can to get unemployment. But like you said, it's creating that comfort. And I feel like the long-term effects is kind of where, like, you got to take ownership, right? I think that's where a really big part, like ownership, and just taking the fact that, look, like, you got to see the long-term effects. Like you said, the government's going to want their money back, you know?
Yeah.
In one way or another.
Like, there a couple months ago, you had sent me a link or a video about, like, oh, because of the whole shutdown, you can actually get a grant from the government that's you don't have to pay back, right? And when I look at that, you can get the grant if you get approved for this economic injury disaster loan, is what they call it. After I looked into it, when you sent me that video, and and I had the opportunity to accept the loan to hopefully get a grant. But even me, I feel like I was trying to look at this with more perspective, right? It's different if I'm pulling out retirement fund money that I already made, that's already mine, but I can't access it. But when I'm getting a loan that may or may not be forgiven, all right, people see that and they go, oh, I'm going to get free money. Okay, it's free money. And, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs might debate like, all right, can I monetize that free money now? If you have a plan, why not get that free money? But if you're getting money just for the sake of getting money, hoping that you'll just never have to pay it back, that's being naive, right? And so, one, I ended up not taking the economic injury disaster loan or the grant that came with it, the $10,000 grant, because I'm like, my business is online, so I'm not necessarily being affected by this. And the only reason I would even take it in the first place is if I wanted to just cash in real quick. But like you said, the government's going to eventually want theirs back. And so for the sake of letting those loans go to the people who really fucking need it, and also the fact that I don't want to have to pay for it down the road, I didn't. Right. But just think about how many people are out there in society right now who see like, oh, loophole, oh, opportunity, oh, upfront cash, oh, opportunity to not work and get more money. It's going to come around. And I think a lot of people are going to have a really big wake up call. And you think shit's hitting the fan now? There's a couple of ways that shit could get even worse. One is if that fucking Derek Chauvin or whatever was on what's his face's neck, George Floyd, the cop.
Yeah.
If he gets off, doesn't get convicted, shit will hit the fan.
Dude.
Also, if all this free money that people are getting, they start being expected to pay it back in a year or two from now, people will get real pissed.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it's not too far from, you know, the truth.
Yeah.
Who knows? The government makes the rules. So
yeah,
they could just put, oh no, there was a loophole this whole time.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's funny? Matthew Morgan, who's coming on the podcast this week, big legal marijuana entrepreneur, made like $100 million in the legal marijuana industry. So he's coming on the podcast next week, and he was talking about like running for government one day potentially. And I'm like, yo, this is something that I am looking forward to. I think Donald Trump really opened up the doors to where before everything had to be politically correct, and you had to go through what you think people wanted. And I think people, especially in this day and age, 2020, they got a little bit over the political correctness that society had to be. And here comes Donald Trump, who's the least politically correct that you can possibly be, and instantly starts making noise, and instantly people start voting for him, whether or not they like him, but simply because they could trust him more, because he had no filters. He didn't care about political correctness. He cared about achieving the fucking goals that he had. The results, right? And so I think that's why a lot of people vibed with him up front. But he opened the door for anybody who's a little bit less politically correct, and even if they're like less controversial, but also not as politically correct, they can still make waves. And so Matthew Morgan, I'm looking forward to talking to him. I don't even know, it was just like an offhand comment he made about running for office, but I was like, yo, what crazy world do we live in to where we could legitimately see someone who made millions of dollars in the legal marijuana industry, but potentially getting political, rising in the ranks,
That's crazy that you mentioned that, because it's like, I feel like that's one of the good things that you could say came out of like this whole out of Trump, right? Like he opened up that door, and I think he got attention to it, and we get to see like, oh, you don't like something, then go do something about it, And I think it's gonna raise like this whole new wave of politicians, and I think it's the possibility of changing for good.
You know what's crazy is the last episode when Clark was talking about consciousness, and we were talking about aliens, UFOs, conspiracies, but he kept using words like consciousness, high vibrational behaviors and energy and thoughts, right? And when I think about consciousness and raising the consciousness of society, I think back to the term woke, like how woke are you or whatever. And I think ironically, a lot of people have been asleep. They've been in their fucking comfortable bubble. They're comfortable with the way the world works. And then 2020 happens, and it's been one thing after another. It seems like we can't catch a break this year. Like, man, nobody could have predicted this shit, right? It starts with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. We got to give them credit for that, because that's really the best part. And we started nice, but then Kobe, and then Corona, and then police brutality, and then killer hornets, and then UFOs, and then the fucking dust storm that's gonna cover the globe, and then apparently Yellowstone is showing signs that, hey, it could be blowing soon. It could be.
Really?
Yo, did you hear about the super
No.
volcano? Do you know about the super volcano?
No, where is it located?
Yellowstone, look it up. You have the computer right there. I'm not quite sure exactly where Yellowstone is. I think it's western part of the U.S., probably central or north, if I'm guessing, on the west part of the U.S. Anyways, all this shit is happening, and I think what's really happening is it's giving society as a whole, not just the U.S., not just a few cities, but countries, parts of the world. We're facing adversity like we haven't in decades, right? And I think if we're talking about trying to raise the consciousness, make people more woke, make people more appreciative of each other, of the luxuries you have, of the resources that you have access to every day, I think this is going to actually be a positive effect out of 2020. A lot of people are going to come out of here with a lot more perspective than they had before, which I am truly grateful for.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way because like I'm 21 and I haven't experienced anything like
You're
this.
only 21?
Yeah, I mean 22.
Okay.
Yeah, and I haven't experienced anything like this in my whole like life. Like this is, like it's just really shining a lot of perspective and a lot of light to where my downfalls are, because I think now is more of the time to have that self leadership, because if not, you're just gonna fall comfort, and we all know where that goes.
Yeah. So where is Yellowstone at?
Yellowstone is, one sec.
He doesn't have his glasses, so he can't read the screen. So basically, a super volcano is what Yellowstone is. So you think about,
That's where like the hot springs is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And like the geysers that shoot out of the ground, right? So that's a super volcano. So that whole thing is basically the part of the volcano that is covered in just lava, but that's like the ground above the center of the volcano. And it's a super volcano, so it's the whole fucking Yellowstone Park is on top of it. So it's such a big volcano, it covers like a decent size of that state. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been talk, there's a lot of documentaries. I saw one when I was like 12 and it scared the shit out of me. And it said basically when this super volcano blows, this goes off about once every 200,000 years. Last time it went off, 200,000 years ago. And so it's due anytime, right? But when it goes off, it's going to be such a cataclysmic event that instantly it's going to vaporize like the western half of the U.S., all right?
Holy.
And then the ash, the fallout is going to kill a large percentage of the
kind of
world.
like Pompeii.
Yeah, pretty much.
That like similar.
Imagine that covering like the whole western half of the U.S.
Fuck.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And apparently there's been some seismic activity that's like, yo, Yellowstone, what the fuck you doing, bro?
What if the Mayans, that's what the Mayans were referring to.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's such a crazy thing that people are saying that the Mayan calendar is actually supposed to end this year. All this shit happened in one right after the other. The fucking person we all love, Kobe Bryant. The world stopped for not just a day, but like a week after that. All right. And then a month later, you know what? I don't want to put this energy out into the world, but when that happened, two things happened in my head. One, I'm so deep down the alien rabbit hole that instantly I was like, how are aliens connected to Kobe's death? Immediately I overcame that because I was like, okay, maybe it's not. Aliens don't have to be at the blame for everything.
Yeah.
But the second thing that happened, I was like, yo, what if it was like the world saying, we want to take out the good from this world before all the bad happens?
Bro, it's kind of like the Bible. What is it in the Bible? Where like they Judgment Day, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the apocalypse. That's in the book of Revelation. That's where the fucking Four Horsemen of the apocalypse come from.
Oh.
It's all in the same story. So, yeah, you and I are elaborating on the same thing, but specifically the Bible talks about the Four Horsemen of the apocalypse, and they kind of come in and carry out the apocalypse that ends the world. The book of Revelation. It's the final book in the Bible.
I heard that book gets crazy. Have you read it?
The Bible or the book of Revelation?
The book of Revelations.
I've read it. But it's been over maybe 20 years. Like I was saying on the last podcast that I went to a Christian school. I went to a Christian school up until like age 12, 11 or 12. And so, yeah, we would have to study the Bible for about an hour every single day. Like it was math, like any other class. We had religion class. And so I've definitely I'm familiar with most of the stories in the Bible, but as far as specific details, I'm a little hazy. Just like I told you on the last time you were here that I have a black belt in Hapkido, which is kind of a branch of Taekwondo. But I remember kind of the basics of like spacing and sparring. But as far as being like technically sound and fundamentally sound, it's been, I mean, I'm 30 now, and I haven't been in like martial arts class since I was like 11. So, yeah, obviously I'm going to be rusty, but yeah, I'm familiar with books of the Bible, and it is pretty crazy, which is kind of why I'm like, see, the Bible itself is insane in itself because so many people interpret it so literally because there's so many things that are left open for discussion. You can either interpret it super literally or you can interpret it as like a metaphor. And the book is riddled with metaphors, and it's kind of like the inception of metaphors because these stories that people take literally are also stories of Jesus telling metaphors and similes and like parables is what they call them. And so it's like a parable within a parable. So you don't even know what to interpret and how you should interpret it, because if you think about where a lot of these books and stories came from, like they were written thousands of years ago, and then it had to get translated into languages multiple times. So you think about, like Clark was saying on the last podcast, the game of telephone we can't even play without getting a message altered, right? Now you think about doing the same game of telephone but also trying to translate languages at every step of the way. And then there was also these people, and this is all in like the Da Vinci Code, right? They even kind of showed this a little bit, which is just a movie and a fictional book, but it's based on actual like research that this guy spent decades doing to write the book. And the whole book of the Bible in itself is crazy, is because a fucking congregation of people hundreds of years ago said, hey, let's decide what we put in the Bible, what we want to rewrite, reword, and what we want to leave out of the Bible, what books we won't even include that were supposed to be included in the Bible. So a Bible is really just like, it's like a cliff notes of what was actually there translated into a different language. And you think like I'll just get one email from a customer who's in a different country and I have trouble understanding what he's saying.
Yeah.
And the people run their lives on this fucking book. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit. I kind of just went ranted.
I wonder like if this is going to push the Elon Musk's, you know, narrative a little bit more forward, in the sense where like, are we going to start focusing a lot more of our efforts to go live out into space? Because let's say Yellowstone does happen, right? Then people are going to be worried like, oh, where are we going to relocate? And all this kind of questions come up into play. So it's like, is that going to?
Well, there are, I'm guaranteeing you that society will move on, at least advanced parts of it. We're not going to start over from scratch, because there's definitely underground facilities that go for miles and miles and miles that I know for a fact that the government has, and they've got years and years and years worth of supplies and food down there, and also the ability to grow more food down there underground in these underground facilities.
So it's like a bunker?
It's definitely a bunker, and they got a lot of these bunkers that go on for miles. So people will survive. It's all about making sure you get there, but only if you're in the government and you have access to that.
Or you know people.
Or you know people who knows people. Or you're one of the survivalists who kind of plan for this shit. But supervolcanoes, man, I get anxiety even thinking about it, because it's one of those things that you can't predict and you have no clue. And when it goes off, you're fucked. So you can't do anything about it. So it's almost like, well, why worry about it? You know, but man, I hope it doesn't go off.
You ever watch the show Doomsday Preppers?
Yeah.
Bro, imagine I wonder where they're at, what they're thinking right now.
Well, they're all bunkered away somewhere, probably.
Oh, true.
Have you ever seen any good Doomsday Preppers on that show?
No, I don't think I have. A lot of them have to do with like just going into the woods, a lot of guns, get a boat, and just ride the river.
Yeah, I mean, most of those fucking dudes, I feel like I saw one guy, they live in like a shitty house, they're broke, and they're spending all their money on ammunition, guns, and gold, because they're like, well, they're after the apocalypse, you got to be able to barter with people, so you got to keep these valuable things. But he's also spending all of his fucking money on it and living a low quality life, because any money he does get, he doesn't save it, he doesn't invest it, he invested in ammunition. But I mean, you're preparing for a hypothetical survival scenario that you don't know when it will come, if ever. And I guarantee there's a lot of people out there who have spent their whole lives prepping and then ended up dying without ever and actually having to use any of the shit that they. And I would say most of the preppers, I've seen are a little bit irrational, illogical, because it's like, dude, do you really think you're gonna survive just with a few things of gold and a bunch of guns? What if a fucking apocalypse does happen, your house gets fucking raided? You think all those guns with you only is gonna protect you from whoever's trying to raid your house if it's a group of people? Or if the fucking super volcano goes off, you think your guns are not gonna just get vaporized instantly along with you?
Yeah.
So the best one that I saw was like a guy in Texas, and he had this whole bug out location that's a gated, just like acres and acres of land, and is gated. And you go in there, and even at his house, he has a natural water well that basically pumps water into this container that's just like reinforced concrete. So nothing's basically going to bring down that water fucking container, and it's going to be an endless supply of water for him. So that's probably the best thing I've seen as far as like water and survivalists. But man, for as far as survivalists goes and doomsday preppers, there's so much shit that you could be prepping for. And a lot of them, if you prep for one, it'll contradict the efforts of the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you also have to be like kind of aware of like which one you're kind of sticking with, you know, because if you're preparing for zombies is going to be way different than preparing for like a volcano.
Yeah. Well, where we're at, we might as well not even prep for the volcano because we're fucked regardless if it goes off. But I don't know, man. I even told myself, this is fucking crazy. Before I moved to Arizona, I said to myself, why are you fucking going out to Arizona? That's right in the fucking blast zone of the supervolcano. And here I am in Arizona, and here we are talking about the supervolcano potentially going off soon.
So that was like a thought you had.
Straight up. It's been a subconscious fear ever since I saw the documentary when I was like 12 on TV. It was like the History Channel. And it showed like just this fucking huge wall from the sky to the ground of like smoke and ash and lava, just like going at like the speed of sound, basically, just traveling across the states, you know, and just like wiping it all out instantly.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, where would you even go? Like, what part of the U.S. is going to
east? You got to go east, bro.
Uh,
So I think they even drew like a little blast zone radius on this documentary. And I think in Kansas, because I was on the very eastern part of Kansas, right where the chunk is taken out in the top corner, like that's where Kansas City is. And I think I was right outside of the fucking area. But then you got to think about all the fallout from the ash and how that's going to affect plant life, the earth itself. You know, it's the people who die early, who get vaporized instantly, they almost get it easy because they don't have to put up with all the fallout afterwards. Effects. But, you know, I'm an optimist, so I got to be in the fallout so I can survive long term, you know, because I'll find a way.
Yeah, that's true. Whether it's killing a man with your own bare hands or planning.
What's your biggest fear, even if it's not apocalypse related?
Biggest fear? Probably just as small as compared to a volcano, but spiders. I fucking hate spiders.
Really?
Man. Yeah, I just can't do it. I don't know. It's like a phobia thing for me. Yeah.
What's the biggest spider you've ever seen?
Probably a tarantula.
You saw a tarantula?
Yeah, where I live, we live like in the valley, in the desert, and there's like, they're pretty common there.
In California?
In California, yeah. So.
How big was it?
I mean, not, I guess, like, something like that.
So this is like 6 inches wide?
About, yeah.
Holy
I just made sure not to get near it because fuck that.
You ever see those YouTube videos of people letting the tarantulas walk on their face and stuff?
Yes, I can't. I cringe at that. I cringe at that.
I even don't like the thought of tarantulas because it's a little spider that's like a kitten because it's got hair. And then imagine like stepping on that thing, just the crunch and like the guts squirting out.
It's kind of like a cockroach. Like they're so small, but if you step on them right, like they just, you know, like they just crunch. And I could just imagine a big ass tarantula.
I said, have you ever seen that viral video on YouTube where it's like this huge spider that's like this big is on the wall and they're trying to come at it with a pot, and then right when they get close to it, it jumps out and hits them?
It's like a camel spider, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yo, those things are crazy.
Dude, aren't they in the Middle East?
I think so.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, someone was talking about how they like went to Iraq for the war or whatever, and that was like a thing that you had to worry about was the camel spiders.
Yeah, imagine just waking up with a giant ass spider on your
I hate spiders too, bro. I hate spiders, I hate heights, and snakes. Can't do them.
Yeah, I hate heights as well,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I get jealous of like seeing people parkour because that's always low key like something I've been wanting to do or just try out.
You're really into that, like almost like I wouldn't call it extreme sports, but kind of, because you do the raves.
Yeah, I just like a lot of like free flow as far as like the body. Like I remember in middle school, I always had this picture because I was always I wanted to be a dancer, and I always had this picture that going into high school, everyone just walked around with a boombox and they would just have dance battles in the middle of like break.
Yeah.
And so it's stuff like that is
Were
always
you disappointed when you got to high school and it wasn't that?
everyone was just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
No type of dancers.
How big was your high school?
I don't know how many students because I didn't really pay attention, but it wasn't all that big. It was I forget how many. I don't know. I can't give you the exact
Ballpark
number.
it.
Probably around
In your class.
in my class, probably like a good 300.
Damn. That's almost double the size of my school. My high school graduating class was 180. And as far as my class rank, I remember I found out when I graduated, I was right smack dab in the middle, so 90.
Oh no! I think it was closer to 500 if I remember correctly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's a pretty big school.
yeah. Oh, I guess because it's like the only high school in the area, so like all like the smaller towns in there, they have to go there.
Would you say that when you were at your high school, that every day you would see people that you didn't know? Like just new people that you'd never seen before? Or would you see the same people?
I would see. That's where I'm just like it's smaller to me because it's like see the same people.
Got it. Yeah, I wonder at like at what phase. It's always fascinated me, just like group dynamics. At what size of group? So like I know with 180 people in my high school class, and then all the classes around us similar in size. It was one of those schools that was still small enough to where everybody kind of knew everybody. But even at your school, you said 500 people in your class.
Maybe, yeah.
So that's
I could
like
be way off. Honestly.
2,000 people in the whole school. So you're saying everybody still knew everybody?
Yeah, I see. That's where I don't know. The numbers may be way off because it was pretty small. Like everyone knew everyone, you know, type of thing. So the numbers I could just be like high or something.
Yeah. You know what blew my mind about when you moved here? Because you mentioned high, and I thought about the first week you get here, and you basically came here and were filling a role from a guy who left right before you got here, and he was very opposite to you because the entire time he was here, he didn't meet any other people, didn't ever have even leave his apartment, he didn't even have a car, right? The first day you're here, you already have a buddy who takes you to raves, or you could go raving
like
with and shit.
yeah, it's just like that's one thing I'm kind of like I just decided to go make friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, why not do it with the hobbies that I like?
Yeah.
And I actually recently went to a rave this weekend.
Really?
In the desert.
How was it?
It was very small. It was cool though. You could see like there was like no light pollution. So you could just see all the stars. I was expecting to see like an alien or something.
Damn. Where was this at?
It was like about an hour, like headed an hour on I-10 west out. I don't know.
You went by yourself?
No, with my friend.
Okay.
With my friend and his girlfriend.
Got it.
So they glove and he told me about the event. And then I was like, fuck it.
So you're a glover. Is that what they
Yeah.
call it? Glove?
Glover, yeah. But he actually dances, and he invited me out Tuesday night to go to like, cause he has a bunch of friends that dance, and one of his buddies is. Have you ever heard World of Dance? It's an organization.
Yeah. Well, I've heard of the show World of Dance, I believe.
I think it may be a
TV
show as well, but they have like an organization, and like there's just a bunch of like good dancers there, and I guess one of his buddies is a part of one of those teams. So I don't know. I guess this gives me something to do, learn actual dance.
Yeah. So is that like what you would think is like a hobby that you're trying to pursue, is dancing or gloving? Is this an opportunity to glove? Tell me about the rave scene, because I'm not a huge raver myself.
Yeah. So when it comes to flow art, like that's what they call like the whole thing. It's like with the LED lights, because there's different types of flow arts, like poi, gloving, orbiting, and it's just like I guess it all goes under flow, and essentially it's just a way to express yourself. And I found it like that's why I love like connecting with people in that scene is because like everyone I've talked to is always so nice, and like we all share like a common, whether it's not necessarily for the music, but it's for the art form, and that's something I really appreciate, and that's why I had the name on my PayPal. The LLC I created was In Light Flow, because my idea for that was to create like a kind of a hub, a center for all the flow artists, like whether you're a dancer, whether you're a glover, whether you come in there, you meet, you could video chat and like just brainstorm ideas on how to like boost each other's levels up, you know?
So you're saying a lot of terms that I've never heard before. So define for me flow, glover, and then dancer. What kind of dancing are they doing? Are they doing break dancing?
Well, the dancing, it includes all that. Like, it ranges from pop, tutting.
But these are like good dances, not just people going headbang.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then like shuffling as well.
I just imagine like those old school video games like World of Warcraft, how you got the different races. You got like the elves or the white people and the aliens or whatever the fuck, the different things. And the like you show up to a rave, you got the glovers, you got the break dancers, you got the tutters, you got the flowers. Like describe, like paint the picture for me. What does this all mean?
So like what exactly?
Flow. What is flow? And you said poi? Something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
So that, well, it's just like two giant ass balls that you swing around and use your body to kind of control and manipulate.
Wait, what? Okay. All right, so tell me more.
So for poi, just imagine you could put like a ball inside, you know, those long tube socks?
Yeah.
Just think of it like that with like a ball at the bottom.
Uh-huh. And it's a light up ball?
Yeah, some are light up, and then with that you could
How do you
just
spell that? P-O-Y?
POI.
P-O-I.
Yeah,
Okay.
poi. And then again, it all comes down to like where I really see like encapsulate the flow. It's just expression through movement. That's kind of like how I mean, I don't know if that is that making sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really where how I encapsulate like the whole thing is like you could move different ways and it's a different art form, but at the end of the day,
So what do people do with the tube sock with the ball in the end of it? They just swing it around like nunchucks?
yeah, they think of it like kind of like nunchucks, and then like there's different technical moves where like they could like isolate them. So what that means is just like it's swinging and then it stalls at one point, so it looks like it's not moving, and then it comes back down and then you swing it, kind of like that.
That reminds me of the Diablo, the Spyros Bros from AGT.
Yeah, that I would consider that flow.
Really?
Part of the flow, yeah.
So anything that's kind of like LED lights and movement that's kind of beautiful but also takes practice.
Yeah, like hula hoops. That's flow as well.
Okay. So is this a commonly used term in the rave industry? Flow?
Yeah, that's like the industry standard, I guess you would call it.
Got it. And so Inlight Flow was your company that you created for like you wanted to eventually sell merchandise for all these people?
I wanted to sell merchandise and then create an app for it to where like because right now the state of the industry, the way I see it, is like they're all kind of separated in the sense like if you're a glover, you're a glover and you're only dedicate like to that Facebook group.
Yeah.
And even with the like dancers and stuff, but there's no one place where like if you're interested in learning about the other arts, there's no real one place to go to, you know. So that was kind of my idea of like bringing it all together, and then through there like I would advertise myself like through making merch, because I had some ideas that would like holographic shirts that look good on camera for when you have like giving the light shows, because that's something I haven't seen before.
So how does someone get into gloving and flow? Because for anybody watching this, if me and Chris are in the car and we play any music, instantly, you know, people sing along to songs. Chris doesn't sing along. He just starts doing this.
Yeah, just with my fingers, just jamming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you get into that? And how do you congregate in a group about that? How does that happen?
You get into it. I got exposed to it through like the events I went to the raves and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I got light shows and stuff. So that's kind of how it is. But it wasn't actually till moving here to Arizona where I met other people with the same hobbies. Because back in my hometown, I had a group of friends that like all did different types of flow, but not the same like gloving and stuff. But to congregate, people just like, oh hey, there's a meetup this week. Like we could do it at my place or at a park, and we'll just grab lights. We could record shows and create social media content and stuff like that, and then just have a good time.
Dang. So you get a lot of creatives in there. And then do you guys all take mushrooms at the same time or what?
So, dude, there's people that take everything.
Yeah.
More than mushrooms, yeah.
Do you ever partake in that?
Mushrooms, I've mainly just stick to mushrooms or acid, honestly. That's like my cup of tea. I don't do it often.
Why acid?
Because it's really weird when like on acid, and same with mushrooms, it kind of like opens up my brain for this type of art form to think about like different ways to move my hands in different directions. It's really weird, but I just feel a more sense of flow.
Do you remember when Brian and I were talking about like our experience on mushrooms?
Yeah.
What's your experience on mushrooms? What has that been like for you? Like
So-
the first time?
Oh, the first time
Yeah.
I didn't take mushrooms. The first time I had my experience with psychedelics was acid,
Okay.
and it was on a way back from.
So acid is considered a psychedelic?
Yeah.
I've never taken acid and I never plan to take acid for anybody watching or listening. But so you start hallucinating, but I think you told me it was it's man-made. It's completely man-made, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
From my knowledge, it's like man-made. So that's why I stick to shrooms now more.
Okay.
But I remember the first time it was driving from, where was it? San Bernardino, so like Los Angeles area, up north towards Sacramento, so towards California, towards Sacramento, and it like I had recently just gone to an event out there, and I got this tab of acid and I just popped it, and I remember we were on the freeway, and it was the craziest experience because when it started to hit, like I had to take a piss. So it's all gonna come back later, but like the freeway started looking like space, like Star Wars, you know, kind of like the Falcon ship just kind of just like all the cars and stuff turned into stars, and like I was just like, whoa, what is going on? And then more halfway through, like the more we went, the more
Does
I had
it kind of make you like slap happy the way like marijuana does the first time first few times?
Yeah, like I definitely had was laughing for no reason.
Okay.
And I was just like, dude, this is intense. It really felt like I was in a rocket ship.
So when I took mushrooms, like I kind of explained how I was laughing hysterically, but I didn't actually find anything funny. It was just making me laugh, and I couldn't stop laughing, which was actually freaking me out. So was it the same thing on acid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was similar to where like I was just like, it was just for nothing. Like it could have been like I would just look and I would just start laughing at the mirror or like that rear view mirror, and I was just like, there's no reason to be laughing, you know?
Hopefully you weren't driving this car, were you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was a passenger.
You were a passenger along for the ride.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then shit started to get serious as I thought I had to pee, and like I don't know how it connected, but then I started relating the sensation of having to pee to like holding on to life, and that all I really had to do was just to let go and die. Like it sounds really weird, but like once I didn't care or gave a shit, like I was like, if I piss my pants, I piss my pants. Then I felt like this sort of sense of euphoria.
You're not cool unless you pee your pants.
Exactly. That's no, and it was weird because I felt this weird sense of euphoria, and like for me, I guess I translated that into death, to where like everything just seemed to open up, everything turned bright. I couldn't see anything. All I could see was the light, like just bright light. And then I would come back and like sober in a little bit and realize like, oh yeah, I'm in the car. But then it was just a cycle of that, just kind of like cycle of life and death. And then by the end of the trip, I mean, I was just like, I would say the main takeaway from there was just like not to hold on to like any certain feeling of anxiety that I got from pissing, which is really weird. But
so you're probably the first person I've talked to that has actually taken acid at raves. I'm sure I've talked to a lot of people who've gone to raves and taken shit like that, but you're the first person I've actually talked to in detail about it. So I guess I'm curious, like, is acid, again, I don't ever plan on taking acid. I don't even have the desire to.
You're just curious.
I'm just curious. Is it one of those things that people take somewhat like mushrooms or ayahuasca to where they try to get a realization
Spiritual.
out of it? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Spiritual?
No, yeah, 100%. Honestly, I don't like tripping at events. I have before like microdosed at events, but I just can't do the whole dose. Cause for me, I do see like acid and mushrooms as more a psychedelic experience and a more spiritual. So I have that respect for the psychedelics in that regard. But there are people. Well, I have like I remember going to this. I don't recommend doing this, but I remember I took acid and Molly. I've taken that like together.
Is that like a deadly combo? Or are you not supposed to do that?
It's very, from my experience, I wouldn't do it again.
Mm.
I just don't mess with ecstasy or Molly anymore like that. I've gotten over my phase, but yeah, it was just very intense and like a lot of energy built up. Like what I mean by that is like I was looking at this artist and he was more of a grunge kind of like dubstep artist. So it was really weird just seeing there. All I saw like on the screen was just like a bunch of like skulls and trippy shit, dude. I couldn't. I had to stop looking at the artist and just look down because it was getting too much.
Okay, so it sounds like you're the type of person who's done your fair share of recreational drugs in your day, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I did a lot, but
what's been your craziest experience on any of them, and what was it?
So one that I could relate to was similar to Brian's story, where I just took mushrooms in my room, and like I just had a pen and paper just to kind of more, it gets a spiritual approach, and like I was just asking myself all these questions and like the meaning of life and all this, and then for some reason I came to like the same conclusion as Brian. It's like at the end of the day, like all that really matters is like the love and spreading that love to others. Which was really weird which was funny when I heard Brian talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You know, like putting out that energy.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, it's crazy when they take psychedelics. I'm specifically talking mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT. A lot of them come to the same conclusion. We're all one. The answer is love. And I'm just like, yo, is there like a neural pathway in your brain that just gets triggered with psychedelics, or are you really tapping into something, right? Because you would like, if it was just one person and you they say, oh yeah, the answer is love. Then you go, okay, that guy's kind of crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
He had a realization. But if it's everybody on the same drug comes to the same conclusion, where's that coming from? And me being someone who has never taken a psychedelic drug and had an experience like that and come to that conclusion, describe what you mean by that, because I know what Brian kind of said, but even I was still a little confused the way he described it. Like, what makes you go, love is the answer, and what is love the answer to, and what does that even really mean?
Yeah, no, for me it was more or less like in a phase where like I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life, and I realized like it came down, when I say love, is just like at the end of the day like changing someone else's life. So that's like you putting in so much effort into no matter what you do, whether it's business or whether it's even bagging groceries at a supermarket, you know, at the end of the day, it's something you're of service. That's kind of what I mean when I say love. It's like being of service to others. That's well, at least that's what I got from it. It's like, no matter what I do, it's like, I have to be of service to others. And it's like, yeah. I don't know. Is that making sense?
Kinda. So that's kind of like the result, the takeaway you got. But walk me through the epiphany story. You know, like what did you experience in the moment? What did you see that made you go, oh shit, it's love, you know?
Yeah. So it was just me going through like what everyone else around me was kind of doing.
Yeah.
And like,
well, you were by yourself. And you
yeah,
took
but
mushrooms.
I mean, what I mean by that is like what my friends did for work and whatnot. And like, one of my friends, he runs a social media marketing agency and all that. And for him, he takes psychedelics, and like, he's one that I normally talk to, but all that. But for me, it was just more or less just going through, no matter what I want to do in life, no matter what everyone's doing in life, they're looking for an end result. And I asked myself, so what is that end result? And for me personally, it was that feeling of love that I get whenever I learn something new, whenever I push myself, so that's where I'm coming from. And that's kind of like when I realized like, oh shit, I'm chasing this feeling.
Oh, so when you say love, you really mean like your passion for progress, for moving forward, for improvement.
Yeah.
It's like when you finally hit your goal, you get a little reward, dopamine kick.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, at the end of the day, you have to do something to earn it, right? So it's not something that you sit there, meditate, and then you'll love.
Yeah.
No, it's like that progress.
So what was the
effort?
Did you feel like your actions after this experience changed? What came from that realization for you?
Honestly, I wouldn't say my actions changed a lot. It was more of like my way of thinking. And I guess in a sense it was because like not too long after that I started my podcast because I was just searching for answers of
What was
like,
your podcast called?
it was called The Heart of the Valley.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be like just interviewing like
Oh yeah, you were
the
telling me about
entrepreneurs,
this.
business people in my area.
Yeah.
Because I live near the Bay Area, so it's like you can be successful wherever you are. Like it's just a matter of putting in the work.
How many episodes did you get?
3.
Damn, you only made it 3. You didn't even make
Yeah.
it to 7.
Yeah, because after that, what was really funny is like after one of those episodes, specifically with a local barbershop owner, and we were just talking like more spiritual stuff. But after his episode, he said something that really stuck with me, and that was like at one point in his life, he didn't know what he wanted to do. He was confused, and he was like one of those people that would tell people like, "Oh, you need to change this, you need to change this," and then there was a moment of self-reflection for him that was like, "Well, what do I actually mean by that? Like, I need to be a leader in a sense to, if I want to tell people how to live their lives, let me live mine first." And then ever since then, that really stuck with me. Because I was the same way. Like, I was always like telling people like, oh, you could be this great business owner and all that. But in reality, it was kind of like coming from a place of ignorance because I wanted that for myself, but I didn't know how to achieve it. And so after that episode, like it really just pushed me to like stop talking so much and just actually do something and take action towards what it is that I mean.
Yeah. I feel like honestly, bro, after talking to you more like just now, I'm coming to the realization that as a 21-year-old kid, you have more life experience than most people who are 41. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many jobs have you done or even tried to do? Like, as far as like a self-starter, you've been a drug dealer at certain times in your life. You started Inlight Flow LLC to sell rave gear for dancers and artists and shit. You were what are some of the other things you did?
Dude, honestly, through that process,
You started a podcast. You became a high ticket closer. You're a marketing manager now.
Yeah.
What else?
I picked up shit at a dog kennel place because I thought I wanted to be a dog. I wanted to be the next dog whisperer.
Yeah.
You know, like I was a delivery driver. Beginning of sales, I did just phone sales, door to door, whatever I could to get.
Door to door sales. And I think this is what people, when people talk about your story, even when I feel like I do a good job of it because I'm aware of it. But when people talk about like their life experiences and what they've experienced, like you don't realize when you were a drug dealer, when you were a door-to-door salesman, when you were a phone sale, like these are phases of your life. It's not just a thing you tried once. It's a thing you went all in on for a certain period of time. And it's like, how many people actually go all in on something in their entire lives? Most people just kind of drift. You're actually actively, like you said, trying to figure out what are you here for? Where do you really vibe and where's your strengths in this world? How can you be more of a service to others? And it's led you through all these different layers of your life to where now you're finally here. And you even said like you could see yourself being here for years, which is a compliment for me, knowing that you're someone who's gone through a lot of trying different things just to get here, right?
Yeah, and that's where it kind of becomes a slippery slope, though, where I feel like personally, because then it's like, oh, I'm here at the destination. I tend to get comfortable. And like we were talking about earlier, comfort, it feels good in the moment, but long term, what does that really get you?
Yeah.
And so that's really where I've been as of late, like just really asking myself, like, what is my like drive? What do I want to do? You know?
Do you know the answer to that yet?
Honestly, I came down to like coming back to the gloving and like the flow stuff. Like I have an Instagram page, and I just decided like there's actually people in the area that, you know, do the same thing. So it'd be cool to just create content, and then I could just like have my affiliate there and kind of create a following on there, you know, to something to do on the side. And then I get to practice the marketing that I'm learning here.
Yeah.
And as well as like I have a better understanding of like, oh, okay, if this works here, what you know, how could I apply this to raw dating advice and your brand, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like it seems like even me, I've gone through a lot just to get here, but it seems like a lot of people who are trying different things, trying to figure out where their life purpose is, trying to figure out what are they destined to do, what are they here for, you know, what is their mission in life. a lot of it comes down to, at a certain point, you realize that if you want to get any success anywhere, you got to become a better marketer, whether it's a better marketer of yourself or a better marketer of your service or product. Either way, until you learn how to influence and how to deliver results for people, you're going to be stuck. And I think a lot of people don't even take enough action because they're paralyzed with inaction or paralyzed with their comfort zone, to where they don't even get to the point where they can figure out that kind of stuff, because they wait until their midlife crisis in their 40s or 50s to start questioning their direction, where they want to go, what do they want to do. Whereas people like you and me, we kind of broke away early. Like, you didn't go to college. Did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school, yes.
Okay. You didn't go to college, but you became a self-learner, and you tried to learn all these different things yourself. I went to college, and it didn't take until I got into dental school where I realized, do I really want to just follow this predictable path for the rest of my life? In that case, it's like you already know what's going to happen. You know how the story ends. Why? What's the point? And I think that's where guys, like, when I dropped out of dental school with no clue how to do any of this. I just knew I would rather be a dating coach than a dentist. But then there were people in my dental school class who respected the hell out of my decision. They came to me, like, we'd run into each other at a bar or a party or a nightclub, and they'd be like, man, that's awesome. You know, one day I want to drop out, or not. I want to stop my dental practice and become a musician, but I got to work up to it. I'm like, all right, one day, but when? Mm-hmm. Well, like, you can talk all you want, but until you do it, it's not going to actually fulfill. And the way that I like to think about it is, like, why are you going to wait until halfway through your life to actually start pursuing the dreams that you actually want? Like, and I think when you actually take that risk of breaking away from the mainstream, as Clark said in the last podcast, is like taking the red pill. When you take the red pill and you're willing to do that early, and you're not willing to sacrifice half your life or 2/3 of your life just to eventually do that, then you actually start growing faster, right? For me, I studied personal development and I was into personal development, but until I got into game, which is kind of my entrance into personal development, but it wasn't until I dropped out of dental school to become a dating coach against the wishes of everybody, and everybody made fun of me. You know, I started a YouTube channel that had no following, and I had no clue what I was doing, how to monetize it, how to make a living as a dating coach. I mean, that was like fitting 6 years of personal development into 6 months. You know, it was very accelerated, because really quickly I had to develop thick skin. I had to control my environment like a dictator. I couldn't let negativity into my headspace, because it would fuck me up. I didn't have much of a support system. I didn't have much other than myself to manage myself. And so I got a thick epidermis really quickly, thick skin. I wasn't phased by small shit that most people are phased by really early. And people wait until their 40s or 50s to have a moment like that. And imagine how far I've grown even from there. And so I was grateful for that experience, because I was able to get perspective early on. And I had a midlife crisis in my 20s. And so, man, I think it's only up from here, but it's really inspiring to hear, like, your story too. And I think it's probably why people like you and I gravitate towards each other and end up start working with each other, because most of the people in online marketing have similar experiences too, you know?
Yeah, that's what I realized. Like, all, like, the great, or the people that are getting stuff done, it's like at the end of the day they go out, and somewhere where I lacked, and I completely agree with you, is like, you, instead of studying self-development, go through it, experience it, because that's to know something, like to know, oh, my thought, whatever I think is going to dictate my results. That's cool. But until you actually go and apply it to some area of your life, that's not when that's like until the real learning comes, well, you know?
I think it also comes down to most people just don't have the desire to. Like, for example, before I got into dating advice and like learning how to improve my own game and just get better at talking to women, I used to think of self-help as like, oh, that's like a thing. Oh, that guy's into self-help. Oh, that makes sense, you know? And so it was like, oh, that person's into self-help. I saw it as something that I was not into. And I saw it as something like, oh, that person's into playing basketball. Oh, this person's into playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Oh, this person's into self-help. Like, I thought it was like a random weird thing that some people were into, but I didn't realize it's not just a thing that people are into. It's just choosing to live a better life and improve yourself every day. And I think most people, especially small town Kansas people, you know, like I was, a lot of those people don't even it's like ignorance is bliss. They're ignorant to what is possible for them. They're also in the belief that they have to fit into this category that everybody's been telling them they have to fit into their whole life. And so for me, ignorance was bliss. I didn't even have the desire to change. And that's why I think Tony Robbins has a point when he says people only change through inspiration or desperation or both. I was inspired when I moved to Arizona and I saw Jason Capital, a guy who I eventually became friends with, and he kind of became a pseudo mentor to me. He was my age, making way more money than I would have ever made as a dentist. All right. So that was inspiration. Desperation, when I realized I don't want to just live a predictable life with no mystery and just talking about teeth all day. Like, fuck that shit. Talking about teeth to make a living so I can live my life, but my life is dentistry. Like, it just didn't ring with me, right? So now it was inspiration and desperation that I had to change. And when I changed, I got that thick skin, the thick epidermis. But like you said, go out and apply it. Most people don't even have the inspiration to do it. And I think where it comes from is you got to realize, hey, you actually have the potential to do whatever you want. Hey, that person who's an international celebrity, a New York Times bestselling author, a late night talk show host, those people started from the fucking bottom just like you. But they had the inspiration and the desperation to change and to improve and to make something of themselves. Whereas most people are just comfortable with comfort, comfortable with security. All the people I went to high school with. I log into my old Facebook account, which I never log into, but every time I log into there and I scrolled through there, it's funny because I'll see people who I haven't talked to or heard about for 10 years, because this is the Facebook page I created when I was in high school, right? And these people are living in the same town, talking to the same people, looking at the same ceiling fans, not changing a thing. And you can tell that they are comfortable and happy doing that. Some of the people who were like all-state athletes, they go back and become a high school coach in the same town they went to school at. And it's like, yo, you're really just going to live the same life for your entire fucking life. What? So that's where I wonder, like, is that something that is people are born with, that one little thing gets them inspired and both desperate to change? Or are there people who get those same experiences, but they just, like, what makes someone respond in a way that goes, I need to improve, I need to get better? I don't know.
That's a good question. Yeah, because it's like, I don't even know how to answer that, because it's like,
do you know what it was for you?
For me?
Yeah. What was the moment where you realized, I don't want to go on the path of retire at 65, get a solid job, go to college, get married with a white picket fence?
I remember this, my third year in college. It was when I got my transcript, because up to that point, I'd been going to college, but I kept dropping classes, adding classes, dropping classes, adding classes. And I finally take a look at my transcript, and I realized that the amount of units I've collected over the 3 years, I was still technically a first-year student. And that's really when it hit me. I was like, bro, if I even want to transfer out, I need to spend another 2 to 3 years here. And I didn't even know what I wanted to do at that point. So I'm like, I don't know what it was exactly, but I just knew I didn't want to be there. And that's really when I started to kind of just go out and look for other answers other than school. And that's where I came across the HTC. And then that led me to kind of going into sales, and then all the way through here, way to here.
And now you're somehow in a different state, working for some random dating coach, helping him start some random fucking podcast.
That's crazy how it all happens, because it's like, I remember James hitting me up, and I was just like, yeah, let's talk. And then we talked, and then within a week or so, I was already out here.
Yeah. And when you moved out here, I was really surprised, because I was like, okay, I want someone who's here in town. And I'm talking to you on the phone. I'm like, yeah, it's in Arizona, right? You're like, yeah, I'm down. I'm like, okay, how soon would you be able to come out here? And you're like, I don't know. I was kind of hoping to be out there by Tuesday. I'm like, bro, it's Sunday. You're going to be here Tuesday? And he was here on Tuesday, right? So man takes action.
Yeah.
But most people would never even be willing to take that risk. Like, what was it about this experience that you were like, not even just raw dating advice, but like, how were you able to front the risk so much when so many people wouldn't do the same thing?
Because I didn't want to live like most people. It was as simple as that. Like, there's something that I told myself, like, I do want to go back to my hometown when I'm older, but that is because I want to buy land and build my own ranch out there and be one of the top, 1% in that town. That's the kind of way I see it. And it's like, I know if I stay there, I'm really constricted because I could either work in Amazon or work a warehouse or just become a teacher because there's not much job opportunity out there. So I'm like, I definitely can't grow out here.
Yeah.
I just need something to move, I need to make something happen.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how we were talking about Elon Musk earlier, and like I mentioned the momentum that the space travel is gonna get. It's crazy because his company SpaceX, the company applied to offer high-speed internet service to Canadians. So it's gonna be like straight from the satellite that he sends up there. It's gonna be internet and through the fiber optic cables. And I just thought that was interesting. Is like
that he's providing internet to Canada.
Yeah, because just looking at it from like a whole nother picture, like just from his vision and where he wants to get to, it's like he's just using anything and everything to gain that capital so that he could push forward his ultimate mission, which is put people on Mars.
Yeah.
So I just thought
is that actually Elon Musk's ultimate goal is just to be on Mars? That's his that's his MO?
From what I understand, yeah. That he just wants to get to Mars and just move that needle forward for humans.
Yeah, I mean, Elon's doing a lot of fucking revolutionary things. He blows my mind, man, especially the whole Neuralink thing. I know we've talked about this before, but man, how can someone like him have so much time to do all the things he does? He starts PayPal. He gets billions of dollars from that. SpaceX. He starts Tesla. He's drilling holes and tunnels under LA to improve transportation. He's providing internet to an entire country through fiber optics, like you said. He started something called the Boring Company, where they created these
Just
fucking flamethrowers that everybody has.
Yeah.
How does one man do so much?
That's a great question, dude. Imagine him coming on this podcast and you just ask him yourself. That's the goal.
Smoke some weed with him like Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah. And they'll
Yeah.
be all over the internet again.
Yeah. I mean, I almost wouldn't want to have Elon on my podcast just because I don't want to have the same guests as Joe. I think I'm still trying to find my voice as a podcaster, and being, 9 episodes in, we're well on our way. And I think as long as I can just be myself and have my own hot takes on things and really just talk about what really interests me,
Yeah.
that'll be there. But honestly, I don't even know what I would talk to Elon about, like what would we even talk about? Like, can I even relate to someone like that? I'm pretty good at relating to people, but like, I felt like even when I was watching him on Joe's podcast, everything he was saying seemed just so unrelatable, like, but man, I don't know. He's kind of crazy. And one thing that scared me about Elon Musk and the way he was kind of talking is like, Joe made a comment like, if only we could see inside of Elon's mind for a little bit. And he goes, I don't think people would like that. We're like, what? He goes, yeah, I don't know if people could handle having the thoughts that I have. The fuck are you saying, Elon? Like,
That's crazy.
And it's almost like you almost got to wonder, does he know like secretive shit? Or I think it's because his brain just moves so fucking fast that he's just like constantly in a state of anxiety. I got to go. I got to do. I got to go. I got to do it. I almost wonder if that's a curse more than a gift.
That's true. I don't know. But I know you mentioned Neuralink, dude. Honestly, when that first came out, I thought about this. I was like, would I get a Neuralink? And I was low key down.
Why?
Cause I was like, in my head, the way I rationalized it was, okay, this is gonna be the future, so might as well be in the
Embrace it.
forefront. Yeah, I was just like, let's do it.
That's like the people who had those fucking 8-track players. If you're the first person to get an 8-track player, who gives a fuck? Because in 2020, does it even really fucking matter?
That's true.
I don't know. I think I'm so still skeptical of any technology that has to incorporate into my fucking brain, unless it's like to cure, like Elon said, he's going to cure paralysis and things like that. But then he's talking about the grand vision is for this thing to eventually allow people to communicate telepathically, for you to be able to look up things in an instant. And like I said on fucking Brian's episode, I don't want the ability, I don't want to have no control over what goes in my head. And he's getting a direct link to my fucking head. He can send a fucking signal to my head and affect my brain however he wants, without asking me.
You ever watch that kind of reminds me of the show from Black Mirror, the episode Black Bear.
Which one was that?
So this lady, she like wakes up in a weird, in just a house with a picture of her daughter, and then she doesn't remember anything. And then she starts to walk out, and she starts to get flashes of her daughter and her husband. And then all of a sudden, she like people with phones start coming up to her, recording her, and she's just like, "What the fuck is happening?" But then it turns out at the end of the episode, she actually her daughter was someone that her and her husband kidnapped and killed and burned in a fire. And ultimately what they were doing, they were punishing her by reliving that moment and messing with her memories to make her think that was her family. And people would just, it was like she was a zoo animal essentially. And like they would create this whole like thing of like a whole story of.
Is this like where she was sitting in the cabin and there's like snow outside of the cabin and it's really all in her head?
No, that's another episode, but I saw that one as well.
Black Mirror fascinates me because on some degree, like, again, that is the fucking slippery slope we're on here, you know? And I think the one that really fascinated me was the Striking Vipers. Where did you see that episode?
No, what happened?
Oh, bro. Striking Vipers is going to blow your mind. Striking Vipers was the first episode of the last season that's been on Netflix, where these two bros, essentially, they're in their 30s or whatever, they're friends, their wives are friends, etc. But the video game is like virtual reality, and they put the little chip on the side of their head, and it zaps them into the game. And they're playing like one of those like Tekken or like Mortal Kombat. Is this when
they have
games.
Sex together?
Yeah. So the guy chooses the avatar of the female, and the other guy chooses the avatar of the male. And in the middle of their little fight, like fight Mortal Kombat, they start making out with each other in the game, and they feel what their character actually feels because he's actually having the sensations as if he's a woman. And then they start essentially like cheating on their wives with each other inside the game. And so when I'm in here working on my computer late at night and Kate's going to bed and she's like, "You never come to bed with me," in this reality, I'm not working on my computer. I'm having sex with my friend in virtual reality.
Bro, oh man, that's funny.
Bro, that's the slippery slope. Dude, one of those episodes of Black Mirror, I forget which one it was. I think it was the very last episode where it's like the museum where they have all the artifacts of the different things from the different episodes of Black Mirror. And it's like, it's kind of like breaking the third wall of like, hey, here's the Black Mirror show that you all know and love, and here's the museum with the artifacts. And then they show the backstory of some of these artifacts. And one of them is this girl, I believe, she got hit by a car, and so they were able to put her consciousness into a chip. All right, talk about Elon Musk trying to get us all in the cloud, right? So they were able to put her consciousness in a chip, and then they offered the husband, who was with his wife when she got hit by the car, so her consciousness is here, and for her to live on, probably the best way to do it is we put the chip in your head, and you guys can share your body, and so. So then he agrees to it, and they put his wife's consciousness into his head, and so she's able to kind of just talk in the background while he's going about his day. And it was a fucking up his basically his life, because now his wife is always talking in his fucking head, and she's getting pissed whenever he hangs out with other women or tries to have sex with other women. And so it gets to the point where he's able to turn her off so he can like hang out with these women, and then he'll turn her back on, and she's like, "Wait, what happened? Why'd you turn me off?" And it's really like 6 years later. He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I've had you off for a while." And then eventually they transfer the chip out of him because he's tired of having her, and they put her into a little teddy bear that can't move. All it can do is like she can have a button that has one response and another button that has a different response for the teddy bear, and that's it. And that fucking bear's just sitting there, just stuck there for all eternity.
Dude, that sounds like just, you're basically in limbo at that point without even being able to do anything just besides press the buttons.
Yeah. Yo. So part of my moral dilemma with this when I was watching the show was, is that really them being in limbo? Because if you think about it, it's not like they transfer their consciousness, their being into the chip. they clone it. It's a copy. It's like if I copy and paste a video file from my hard drive onto my computer desktop. Is it the same video file, or is it just a video file that looks exactly the same as it? So is it really you, or is it something that is a copy of you, but it's not actually human?
So does it, so like, it's like, what's real?
Yeah.
So it comes down to that question, like, what is real and what
is consciousness? What makes you you? And I thought about this, like, if you think about the afterlife, this also scares me. If you were to die today, right? Let's say there is an afterlife and your consciousness lives on. Well, think about what drives your personality on a day-to-day basis, and what drives you to do the things you do on a day-to-day basis. And if you really think about it and boil it down to the core, what really ends up happening is you are responding to stimuli in your environment. I'm hungry, so I get up and go get food. I got to go take a shit, so I get up and go to the bathroom. I'm thirsty. And then so you're talking about your motivations to go to the bathroom, your motivations to eat and survive. Well, when you're dead, or even reproduce, right? And I got to have the right outfit. I got to look good. I got to have the right status on my social media, so that way women will be attracted to me. So I'll have the status. So I'll have the money, the materialistic things. If you're just pure energy and consciousness, after you die, you go into the afterlife, you're not even going to be a recognizable version of Chris Perez, because you're not going to have any of the same motivations. No need to reproduce as a fucking person in the afterlife. No need to eat food, to go to the bathroom, to do any of the things that drive you on a day-to-day basis. So you got to wonder, what part of me actually is the soul, and what does the soul actually do? You know? And so if you're thinking about that, it kind of scares me, because it's like, do I really live on in the afterlife? And am I even the same person? You know what I'm saying?
Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Why do I start this podcast? I start this podcast to express myself creatively, so I don't feel like I'm on a grind that I'm not looking forward to showing up to. You know, and I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to showing up to what I do on a day-to-day basis, but just a hypothetical example, right? The soul version of me, who doesn't have a physical form, probably wouldn't have the motivation to start a podcast and do the things that I do.
Yeah, at that point, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is there to create if you can't,
Yeah.
if everything's already there?
But, and then that also brings up the moral dilemma on the flip side of the coin is, what is consciousness? What if when you copy a version of you to a chip, just like in the show Black Mirror, what if it actually is you and it's not just a clone of you? Because if you think about your brain right now and what drives your motivation and your ability to feel tension in your stomach so you're hungry and you get up, right? All those things are just neural connections and neural pathways. But neural connections and neural pathways, we can quantify that. We can talk about the amount of neurons and where they're connected to and where they start here and they go here and what's their function, right? Theoretically, we might be able to get to a point in the future where our microchips are just as advanced, if not more advanced and more complex than the human brain. We're nowhere close to that now, but if you think about the exponential growth curve of humanity, we could be there soon. So if we copied your exact neural pathway over to something that's more robust than biological organic matter, then maybe it actually is you. And because what if you are just a decision-making algorithm, which is your brain making decisions to survive and reproduce?
Reincarnation. And then you just become a turtle. What if you just come back as a turtle? If reincarnation was real,
if maybe this is proof that reincarnation might be real? Maybe your consciousness, your soul, I'm getting super deep and metaphysical on this, right? But if your consciousness and your soul is really just a state of being and life, well, if your life gets projected into, talk about reincarnation, into a turtle, like you said, well, that turtle is going to have the same motivations of a turtle, because a turtle only has the ability to move this fast, eat these foods, do these things, right? So obviously your day-to-day motivations are going to change versus when you're in a past life and you're a human, or vice versa. Maybe you're moving up, right? What if your personality, the way you think of yourself, is really just dependent on the physical form that you have?
And then that goes back. It just reminds me of psychedelics, where it's like everything's connected.
Yeah.
And it's like
I'm not even high right now for y'all motherfuckers.
Yeah, it is just like, I don't know, man. My brain is just like trying to compute everything you just said.
Yeah. How crazy did I sound on a scale of 1 to 10 just there?
You sounded passionate.
Passionate.
Okay. That's what
That
it was.
that is the only right answer to that question. Because I personally think that sounded a little out there for someone who doesn't think as deeply as about some of these topics as me. But hey, man, maybe some people got value out of that. I know it blew my mind when I first thought about it like that.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be a necessary conversation once you do have like chips like that, and you know, like the world does move forward to a more technological like base, you know, with AI, these chips and stuff. It's like,
yeah, like when you get projected into a reality where you don't have to eat. Okay, are you even the same person anymore? Like, what if your whole identity is revolved around being a foodie? Then now you have to find a whole new identity and reinvent yourself.
that's true. So it's just like a lot of questions to ask, and is like at what point does science, like, do you bring science and then also the spiritual aspect, you know, it's kind of together to kind of explore.
And you know, it's crazy about this conversation is, like I said with Clark, I struggle with spirituality. I struggle with thinking in terms of high vibrational energies, and even meditation is a thing that still feels weird to me, even though I've done my fair share of it, and I've done, and I even recommend it to certain people in certain situations. Even me, like the whole Eastern philosophy, it sounds great in theory, but a lot of times for me, it's hard to accept the theory as something that I would want to actually act through, because a lot of it is just like stuff that you can't tangibly do or take action with. It's like live through love, be grateful, have, you know, become enlightened, you know, things like this. But I think there's definitely its place and time. So I'm still working on it, honestly.
Yeah, and it's something I completely agree with you. Like there is, like, you know, like I studied Bob Proctor and worked with that, and that kind of left like I would say the one good thing that came out of that kind of experience was me just kind of realizing that, okay, there's a difference between using buzzwords and stuff that sounds good towards some versus something that's actually tangible and that you could apply it to your life. Because I feel like a lot of people that are woke it's not something that they are like that you could express tangibly. It's a lot of like, you know, is that making sense?
Yeah. Well, woke, I would say I feel more woke than I was when I was on the mainstream society of like, hey, get this degree, go to this job, have these next 40 years be your life, you know? I feel more woke than that because I've broken away from the mainstream and I've really had to grow up really fast, essentially. You know, you even experienced growing up really fast sooner than I did, because it wasn't until I was 24 until I moved away from my hometown, but you moved here at 20, you know, 21. So I don't know, like even just having those experiences that most people don't, going through, like I said, the midlife crisis in my 20s, I feel like I start to see the way the world really works sooner rather than later. So I don't know if woke is necessarily like a bad thing. I think it's just understanding more what you should be prioritizing and what you shouldn't. Because when you are more woke, essentially, you kind of you're able to pick and choose what's gonna throw you off on your day. Like shit that I can't control used to piss me off all the time, and I used to stress out about it. Like if someone flips me off in traffic, or if someone honks at me, or if, you know, Trump said something that offended me, or Kevin Hart tweeted something that offended me, like shit I can't control, and shit that why should I even be the one to fucking worry about that in the first place, right? Used to bother me. But now that I've had to fend for myself, I've experienced mass rejection from a group of people because I dropped out to do something that most people don't even like, which is dating coaching. Like most people find dating coaching repulsive or offensive. Like feminists who saw pickup artists posting clips online, they found it very offensive, right? That's neither here nor there, but it's like I've experienced nobody supporting what I was on, and then having to figure it out for myself, learning how to influence people, learning how to market myself efficiently on the marketplace, learning that a lot of the things that I see on a day-to-day basis are actually just people trying to influence me to buy their programs and shit. And being able to see who has an ulterior motive to what they're doing, being able to read people, seeing if they're a value giver or a value taker, right? Am I more woke because I've had these experiences, or do I just understand how things work better than I did before? Because now I'm open to seeing, hey, maybe there's a different way that things are going than I thought before. You know, I feel like most people are not willing to see that.
Yeah, and like kind of changing the topic off here, like I feel like something that I highly respect with Raw Dating Advice is like my first kind of look into the dating scene. I realized like dating advice is very taboo in our culture, and I kind of see Raw Dating Advice kind of breaking that mold with what direction you're taking the company, which I'm excited for, which I think is necessary because it's at the end of the day like you want to find someone, and I feel like doing it the right way is only going to help so many people at the end of the day, right? Like,
yeah, I totally agree, man. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily that my goal is to make dating advice more mainstream. I think people, as they kind of, for lack of a better term, elevate their consciousness, they'll realize that dating advice is only taboo because they think it's taboo in their own head, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon. Dating advice in itself is not taboo inherently, right? Dating advice is just telling you a more efficient way to be more likable in social situations. That's it. That's it. But people find offense to that because they think, oh, you're manipulating this person. Oh, you're learning how to get them to do things against their will. No, that's called rape. And dating advice is not rape. And I think that's why it's taboo, because people blur the lines between that and just being a more likable person in social situations to where the opposite sex will actually like you now, right? So I think just as people kind of elevate their consciousness a little bit more, it'll become a little bit more mainstream. And I think it's already happening, honestly. I think people are realizing in 2020, with all this shit that we've even talked about at the beginning of this podcast, with all this shit that's going on right now, they're starting to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't worry so much about the fact that this person wants to learn how to get better at being attractive to women, right? And I even think about the same thing. Why is it taboo? It's taboo because people think it's taboo. And even when people ask me questions, I'll be like, oh, cool, man. Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer it in a fucking video in the future. And then I immediately lose respect for that person when they go, oh, can you make sure I don't get connected to that question at all? I don't want my name anywhere near that question. And it's like, bro, why? Who gives a fuck?
what's wrong with it, you know?
Who gives a fuck? You think this is going to ruin your life if Mark A is associated with your testimonial or whatever? Like, and I think this is just a symptom of people not having higher quality problems in their life, right? I said this on a coaching call the other day. My only goal in life is to have higher quality problems, right? When I was in small town Kansas, my problems consisted of, I don't know, name any mundane thing that I had no control over. Oh, this show got canceled. I'm so pissed. Or this person flipped me off in traffic today. I'm so pissed. Now I'm like, how can I have higher quality problems to where I have a 1,000 seats for this huge summit that I'm putting on, and 1,200 people bought tickets. And now I'm like, how do I accommodate 200 extra people? That's a higher quality problem, right? And the person who is able to improve themselves so much to where that's one of their problems, and that's the thing that they're worrying about today, the fire they're trying to put out, that's a lot higher quality of a life, in my opinion, than someone who's worried about, oh, fuck, this person talks shit about me behind my back. Yeah. Like, when you experience higher quality problems, you become numb to the minute shit that doesn't actually matter and doesn't actually affect you moving the needle forward in your life.
And do you think that helped you build like that thick epidermis?
What helped me build the thick epidermis is just having perspective on the situation, having confidence that I had to come to grips with the fact that this might happen before, right? And so going into taking the risk of dropping out of dental school to start a dating advice business, that was a big risk. But before it happened, it wasn't like I was like, well, let me drop out of dental school and then let me figure out what I want to do. No, it was, I'm in dental school, but I know that I have a lot of potential as a dating coach. I know I can do it. I know it's a proven industry. I know there's a lot of people who do it. And if anybody's going to do it, why not me? And I told myself I would rather have tried it and failed than have not tried it and wondered what if. And so that was how I became okay with it. But even for me to go through that process of becoming okay with it, I had to go in and kind of just know, hey, this is probably the worst case scenario. Am I okay with that? And once I was okay with the worst case, then it was like when it happened, all right, fuck it. I already expected this, you know?
Yeah.
So have you ever had an experience where you felt like it was a big risk? Did you kind of go through a similar thought process?
I feel like a lot of it is through door-to-door sales, like when just like people just like get mad at you for no reason. I feel like something that I had to pick up quick was just kind of like not let that phase me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think on the door-to-door sales aspect, you know, facing a lot of rejection also helps you get that thick skin. And even that risk getting the thick skin, I got the thick skin because I felt the mass rejection from everybody I knew in Arizona. You know what I'm saying? And all the people who wanted to talk shit about whatever it was, dating advice. Oh, he wants to be a dating coach. That's fucking weird or whatever. And honestly, I don't even know what they said, but I know that they were saying it because people told me that people were saying stuff, but I turned a blind eye to it because I'm not going to worry about shit I can't control. Right. And, that's why, like, even in my dating advice programs, one of the things I recommend is like, dudes, guys, go out. I want you to go out and get rejected 9 times in the next 3 days, right? Most people get rejected 9 times in their entire fucking life because they don't take enough risk. But the only way you're going to actually improve and actually develop that thick skin is like facing the downside a lot, which is, you know, guys are afraid to approach a girl because they're afraid to get rejected. Well, go out and get rejected 9 times over the next 3 days. I guarantee you, pretty soon you're going to get over the fear of rejection, right? And now, for me to approach a girl is no big deal, literally. And I'm not saying that to just like fucking hype up my own ego or my own image. I've literally I've felt rejection so much times in my life with women and with anything else I've tried, to where I'm like, it's just a part of the game. Kobe Bryant doesn't get afraid to shoot the basketball because he's going to miss the ball or miss the shot. He's missed so many shots that he's confident that he can make them because he's made enough shots, because he's practiced so much and he's missed so much that he's learned how to actually make them more often than he misses. R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. But it's the same type of mentality. Just because I've missed in the past doesn't mean I'm going to not take this shot, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's an old adage, but it's like, you're going to be afraid of taking shots all day if you've never taken a shot. You know, so take more shots.
Exactly. And that's honestly one of the reasons with that type of line of thinking. That's why I did say door to door. Because at that time I was scared of rejection, and I was like, what's the best way to overcome this? Just get rejected. Yeah. So I just went and did it.
You fucking crushed it, bro. And here you are on the world's #1 fastest growing, most mind bending podcast in the world.
If you're not subscribed to already, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to download. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, leave a review. Do all
that follow button. Whatever you got to do what you got to do. Anyways, I think that's good for the day. We should cut it here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next podcast. Peace out.
Peace.